As the name implies, when we say Bank of Industry, it means it's a special bank for industry. They have a special role for industry.
It's a bank that is owned by the government that's supposed to be assisting the small-scale industries.
It's a bank where people can obtain loan.
They also advise upcoming entrepreneurs.
With the continued decline in our foreign reserves and the recent call by the Central Bank of Nigeria, amongst other institutions, who say the fight to save the Nigerian economy lies within the power of the small and medium-scale enterprises, who can convert the non-oil sector into a massive income earner. Today on Bank of Industry Weekly, we delve into the state of the Nigerian economy, the diversification that should be, and specifically we look at the agro-processing space in the country. I am Tunji Andrews. Welcome to BOI Weekly. You might want to say, why agro-processing? And I'll be quick to say, why not? Now, Nigeria's total land area mass is over 900,000 square kilometers, making it the 32nd largest nation in the world. And of course, with a population of over 180 million people, you know that's a lot of mouths to feed. Now, the land mass breakdown shows that about 78% is available for agricultural uses. Now, of that 78%, we have 48% arable land. That is land available for farming. And that, you know, if you farm right, you get the right kind of harvest. But should we stop there? No, I think we should be thinking about export-worthy goods that could fetch us some foreign earnings. Crude oil contributions to exports is about 95%, while non-oil exports are about 5%. In 2015, the income that came from non-oil exports was about $3.4 billion. Now you start to think and wonder if we're able to take it to maybe 20 or 30%. This is better if we look at agro-processing area. With me in the studio, we have Adegboyega Ola today, who is going to be speaking to us from the perspective of BOI, and also Olatosi Olasende, who is going to also be with us in the studio. She's someone who is an enthusiast for the MSME space, and we're going to be looking at agro-processing in Nigeria. Now, let's start with you, Tosi. I mean, looking at the Nigerian economy as it is, we see our mainstay used to be agriculture before we found the black gold. And I mean, the black gold isn't working as it used to at this particular time because we have the issues of falling global crude oil prices. Could you give us a brief description in your terms of what the Nigerian economy is right now?
I mean, the Nigerian economy, we've seen the oil drop from June 2014 by about 72%. And we've seen all the channels gradually closing. Like last year, they budgeted about 5 billion naira as funds for the tax, but they only recouped about 3.5 billion. So it all trickles down. You can also see that consumer spending is gradually contracting. So now that takes us back to the board and ask ourselves, how can we drive this economy? We can start looking at the non-oil exports. Like you rightly said, just 5% was $3.5 billion. So imagine we have 10%, that's $7 billion or even more. So now how do we drive it? These are numbers, and this is what will trigger the action required.
Adegboyega, I mean, I saw a report, and it spoke about the fact that West Africa alone consumes about $1 billion every year in terms of fruit juice concentrates, and also in terms of materials used for powdered milk, to about $2 billion year on year. Shouldn't that be some sort of incentive for investors to come into that space and look at, okay, we can invest in processing in West Africa?
Ideally, it should be. In a lot of cases, what you actually do find is the investors do want to come in, but the question is, do you have the infrastructure? Now, for agriculture in particular, there's a value chain. Now, that value chain basically goes from pre-production all the way to industrial processing. But the key factor that passes through each stage of that value chain is logistics. How do you transport from point A to point B? Now, basically, that's where BOI comes in. The Cottage Agro Processing Fund is a $5 billion fund that was launched. Basically, it's our own interventionist fund to ensure that you have micro and small businesses that can basically access that fund to start agro-processing industries very close to where the raw materials are actually produced. Now, our goal is to ensure that we finance, give or take, about 20 to 30 mills per state, generating employment, both direct and indirect, of about 20,000 jobs.
Tosi, your dad is into agriculture as it is, and could you just shed some light into how he's able to get his products from his farm to the people that are going to sell it, if there are any challenges in that area?
I mean, the challenge there again comes about, number one, the value chain, and number two, the processing. So for instance, you have a huge a bunch of plantain that would ordinarily go for about 2,500 in the market. But the market women come and buy for as low as 500. But guess what? Despite the fact that they were able to get it at a bargain, the product might actually rot in their hands. They don't get it quickly to the end user. So we're talking about value chain, and we're also talking about how can we process in order to keep avoiding post-harvest losses.
Well, after the break, we get to an outlook for the agro-processing space in the immediate term. And of course, we touch on funding options. Stay with us. This is BOI Weekly. Welcome back. Belefu is designed to be a one-stop shop for local frozen food products and general groceries. It is a community food retail outlet in Surulere, Lagos, actively processing agricultural products in the poultry, aquaculture, and cropping subsectors. Now, the principal promoters are Abdullahi Ladipo, a brand communication strategist, and Onomade Olabowale, an agriculture engineer. They say their aim is to rejuvenate the agri subsector. Take a look, and I will be back with my guests in the studio.
As a startup agro-processing company, the challenges has been the acceptability of the product by our people, because over the years they've been used to foreign processing and packaging, and at the same time, if the sector have been well funded, we will have grown to a point of packing it in a way that it will be acceptable both by our people and the foreign markets.
You hear Nigerian banks tell you categorically that they don't do startups. Now, if nobody is doing startups, how do we ever get to jumpstart the agricultural sector in Nigeria? Because from statistics, 90% of those who do real agri in Nigeria, who are the smallholder farmers, are poor people. Now, if you say you don't do startup, how do we ever get to jumpstart the system? There's got to be a conscionable effort by government and the development finance agencies to do something directly that would touch the farmers, and not just routing it through the money deposit banks, who for all you care are just mere deposit banks. I tell you honestly, if we were to receive funding from, say, Bank of Industry, we will expect a situation where they will fund equipment for us. We need equipment for processing the primary products. It could be equipment for drying. It could be equipment for slaughtering, for scraping, for polishing. It could be equipment for packaging, branding. Generally, we are in dire need of equipment, and we've already sourced all of this equipment. But we're taking it in our stride just to see how quickly we can get funding to procure this equipment from abroad. The sky is our stepping stone, I tell you, not the limit.
Now, the potential for growth in the agro-processing space is simply massive. That is just one company attempting so much. What is the future and the possibility for intended entrants and existing businesses to diversify? Still with me in the studio is Adegboyega Olatide, who will be speaking from the perspective of the BOI, and also Oluwatosi Olasende, senior researcher with BTVA and an ardent advocate of the MSME space. Now, let's talk solutions, guys. We've heard so many young people talking about the fact that they want to go into the processing space. A lot of people talking about the tomato processing area, because people are looking at why must we produce tomatoes and have to import tomato paste. But the question, or the big elephant in the room, is still funding. What do you think is happening to bridge that gap between people who want to go into the space and funding?
Well, the beautiful thing about it is this, Tunji. Regards funding, from a BOI perspective, the first thing we as an institution would look at is the risk attached to your project and also your business model. Now, before we look at risk, we'd also look at your business model is very important. And your business model should answer two basic questions. One, what is your product? Two, who are you selling it to? Now, there are so many sub-questions around what is your product and who you're selling it to. But they should basically answer the general and specific requirements regarding accessing funding for us. Now, if your business model is articulate enough, that shows what are you selling, who are you selling it to, what type of personnel expense would you need, what type of equipment you would need. If you've articulated all of that, then it's easier for us to say, okay, yes, this is a project that we would like to fund. But the general problem you have around lending, particularly in Nigeria as we speak, is the fact that most business plans are not articulated enough.
Articulate or not, the question is, how far is the BOI willing to go? Because, I mean, there are projects of maybe ₦1 million to 10 million naira, but there are also some projects that might take 50, 100, $1 billion, $2 billion.
Yeah. Well, the thing is this, the size of the fund in particular is 5 billion. Now, BOI basically has 9 funds, 6 are agriculturally based, right? So we are not averse to lending to the agri space. But for us also as an institution, it is also a risk thing. So despite the fact that we want to lend, at the same time, are we certain that we're lending to the proper institution? And are we also certain that that funding gets, first of all, the right usage, and secondly,
I'm actually excited that Tosi is here, right? Because she sees the other side of the picture. She sees right at the point where the product is leaving the farm. And then she gets to interface with people who will be taking it to the markets. Now, I mean, from that angle, we're asking, are the people there exposed to this kind of information, or are they exposed to funding to create processing plants?
In actual fact, I don't think everybody knows about the great work that BOI is doing. For instance, not too long ago, I heard about the BDSPs, which are the business developers service providers, because it's one for me to have this fantastic idea. However, do I have the capacity to put it on table, to make it look presentable to BOI, or to fit it in order to go after what they want? And that is what the BDSP does. I mean, the BOI has over 100 BDSPs, and basically just help you build your business plan to ensure that it's a good fit. They tell you about the tenor of the loans, if the criteria meets what BOI is looking for, and other options like that. So we need to sensitize such information, take it to the grassroots, let the man on the street know that, you know what, this option is actually available.
And you know, also face another challenge. And that challenge also is whether the man on the grassroots wants external funding. The man on the grassroots is usually averse to
some formal. But what they will tell you is that the processes are tedious.
Yeah, they have to be. Because what you're basically trying to do is you are trying to formalize an informal sector.
But guess what, Tunji? That is changing. Did you know that BOI has an app? No, so now for that young 22 or even that NYSC graduate that want to start something,
you can monitor the entire
you can just check,
oh,
now this is BOI app, this is the interest rate they're offering, this is the graduate entrepreneurial program that they have. They've tried to make it easy. So I think the information just needs to go out there and let people know that, you know what, this is what they are offering, and is my product a good fit? Can they help me?
I think we've been able to address the fact that there will be funded in some spaces. But I'm still generally checking how much can BOI do in terms of meeting this gap? Because, I mean, there seems to be a vast gap. We're not just talking tomatoes now. We're talking eggs. We're talking cocoa. We're talking cassava. I mean, a lot of areas.
What the BOI basically has done is basically they've divided Nigeria into what we will call staple crops processing zones, where you have a specific zone that is responsible for producing one staple crop or the other. Now, the key thing, as we've noted across the entire value chain of agro-processing, is that transportation or logistics still plays a key role. So you still have to get your produce from where you manufacture it, either where you process it or to your final consumers. Now, what BOI would love to do is to help you situate whatever agro-processing mills you have very near where the produce is manufactured itself. So transportation costs are minimal, because what you tend to find is that transportation costs alone account for 70 to 80% of the value of what you've produced. So I produce oranges at, let's say, 500 naira a basket. I'm adding 350 just to move it from the village I produce to the main town.
Is this true, though?
Actually, it's not true. For instance, a basket of tomato costs about 1,000 naira in the north. The minute it gets to the market in Ketu market there, guess what? It goes all the way from 1,000 to about 5,000 to 6,000. And the worst part is they even now lose some of the produce due to waste, no processing facility. So it's a double whammy.
Well, I mean, okay, Boyega, let's now talk returns, because I'm always interested in returns. Now, if we're looking to invest that $5 billion that you've spoken about, what kind of returns do we expect to get?
Well, the basic thing with agriculture is it's what they'll say is high risk, high return. Now, agriculture typically would give you returns, ballpark figure, in between 30 and 40%.
I don't think we should get ahead of ourselves.
You
because
can actually
agriculture actually needs lazy capital. It's not something that you put in today.
So
you want to
get out quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
It needs lazy capital. You have to be in there for the long run. That's the thing about agriculture, and eventually it will pay off. For instance, and let me talk about real fruits. It processes fruits, that is, it dries the pineapple and packages it. Now she's exporting, but it took a while. She's now in her 4th year. Now she's getting all the necessary, recognition, but it took a while for her to get there. So it needs lazy capital. We shouldn't get ahead of ourselves.
All right, you've heard it. The crop production, livestock, forestry, and fishing subsectors of the agricultural space in Nigeria is waiting for willing industrialist entrepreneurs to cultivate and basically help grow that sector. Now, the funding options have been laid out, and the Bank of Industry is definitely one of these. I have been speaking with Adeboyega Olatides, BTVA's head of research, who has been speaking for the Bank of Industry, and Oluwatosi Olaseyinde, the senior researcher at BTVA. She's young at heart and definitely an agri enthusiast. Thanks for your time, guys. After the break, we will look at the Bank of Industry's newest initiative targeted at the Nigerian youth core members. I say catch them young.
The Bank of Industry this week launched the Graduate Entrepreneurship Fund, a 2 billion naira empowerment program targeted at members of the National Youth Service Corps. This is a joint initiative of the bank and the NYSC. The objective is to encourage core members to venture into businesses and become employer of labor. Successful applicants with bankable business plans within the BOI's SME clusters will get loans between 500,000 and 2 million naira. The program will also ensure sustainability of the businesses built thereof. The CEO of the Bank of Industry, Rashid Olalua, says this is a project close to the bank's heart, and catching them young is its mission.
The more energy resources we had, the more growth we experience. The first industrial revolution was driven by an abundance of coal. It was when the world was running out of coal reserves that we found oil, and then oil led to automobiles and all that. So there is a very good correlation between how energy resources have developed and how human beings have also developed, humanity, how we have developed, and how technology has also evolved. Guns, firearms were introduced in I think like 1000 BC or something. Okay. Now, when the colonial masters came to Africa, what did they use to colonize us? Guns, simple guns, then guns. Yeah, we were carrying bow and arrow. So he who had technology prevailed and colonized us. As Africans, we shouldn't take the risk of being colonized a second time because it's a possibility. We are only counting on the goodwill of the West for now. They're just trying to be nice.
So the government should look at developing
our own technology is absolutely important. Absolutely important.
Can the Bank
You
of
know,
Industry
I'm sure you must have read about or heard about, you know, some engagements between the United States of America and China as to whether some technologies were, whether there was espionage and all that, whether certain things were copied or not copied. There is a lot of seriousness that is being paid to technology development, you know, in the developed world, and we cannot remain underdeveloped forever. You know, China does a lot of reverse engineering. What's reverse engineering? They see a technology that works. They have these smart young scientists and engineers. They put them in a room. They take those technologies apart. They understand the components, and then they use the knowledge derived from that to create their own. So it's, you know, we must have our own strategy for developing these things. And we cannot reinvent the wheel. I mean, it's like what we did in mobile telephony. We didn't have landlines. We only had 400,000 lines in 2001. Today we're talking about 130 million subscribers, but that's technology usage, because we don't own the technology. We just bought the technology, or foreign companies brought technology to Nigeria. So Nigerians, we are very good at using technology, but we are very weak at developing technology, and that's the difference. The long-term survival of a nation is a function of how well you develop technology. And the technology is also what you use to harness the energy sources.
All right, so finally.
Now, for more information on what you need to do to get funding for that project, please check www.boi.ng or email customercare@boinigeria.com. You can also tweet @BOI Nigeria. I am Tunji Andrews. See you next week.